Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Citrus Heights City Council for Thursday, January 14th, 2021. And with that, I'd like to call the regular meeting to order. And if we could put the flag up, we can do the flag salute. Thank you, Amy. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, if you could call the roll, Ms. Van.
Councilmember Bruins.
Present.
Councilmember Daniels.
Here.
Councilmember Schaefer.
Here.
Vice Mayor Middleton.
Present.
And Mayor Miller.
Here.
Tonight's meeting of the Citrus Heights City Council is cablecast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel, on the Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T U-verse cable systems. This meeting is closed captioned and live streamed at citrusheights.net. And tonight's meeting replays on Monday, January 18th at 9 a.m. on Channel 14.
Thank you. And with that, the next item is approval of the agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. I wish I could say all those in favor, but I guess we have to call the roll.
And can I just clarify who made the motion?
I believe that was Councilmember Daniels.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Bruins?
Present. Aye.
Councilmember Daniels?
Aye.
Councilmember Schaefer?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Middleton?
Aye.
And Mayor Miller.
Aye. And moving on to the next item, this is comments by council members and regional board updates. And I'd like to ask Councilwoman Bruins to go first.
Okay, thank you. A few things to report on. First of all, on Tuesday evening, I attended a Zoom meeting with the director of ARCA, our new American River Collegiate Academy charter school that has opened for kindergarten and first grade in temporary sites. They met with area 7, 8, and 9 and to give an overview of their program and to introduce them to the building project that's taking place soon at the corner of Old Auburn Road and Antelope, where they've purchased 3.5 acres to build a K through 6th grade school. It was a really good meeting, and they are going to have a parent information night. Actually, they had one last night, but they're going to have another one on February the 9th, a Zoom meeting at 6:30 to introduce parents who have children who would like to enter in the fall, and they're extending it into the 2nd grade in the fall. They still do have a couple of openings if anyone wants their children to actually go to school in Sacramento County. They have been given the authority to have in-class sessions, and so they have been meeting in person with their students for several months now. Secondly, Regional SAN had a board meeting on Wednesday, yesterday. We honored Brian Young for 25 years of service, and he is the amazing person who runs the bufferlands, the 3,500 acres of bufferlands around the wastewater treatment plant, which is a wonderful nature preserve. And once COVID is over, I would encourage you to, as council members, to contact me to set up a tour. It's a wonderful tour of not only the plant, but the bufferlands, and you can see what an incredible job the district has done to preserve a natural resource for us all to enjoy. We also approved an agreement for recycled water pipeline construction contracts, which is going to take about 15 miles of recycled water down through the south area for watering of farmland and landscapes and golf courses and things like that. And then today we had a PAL meeting, or yesterday, I guess, we had a PAL meeting, and we decided to waive the fees for 2021 for students who are participating. Due to COVID, we don't have the level of activities we've had in the past, so we felt that would give a little bit of financial relief to the families of these kids. We continue to add more children. It's amazing. Our PAL police department, the police officers in particular that run the PAL programs have just really stepped up this last year. As you know, probably the culmination of that was the reverse trunk or treat, and then the Miracle on Fountain Square Drive. That was all done by our Youth and Family Services Department and our PAL police officers. We welcome 2 new board members. One was returning, that's Jeff Slowey, who has come on as a citizen back to the PAL board, and Chris Green, who is an intervention specialist at Sylvan's Middle School, also has joined the board. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie. And next, Councilmember Daniels.
Thank you. No regional board updates, no meetings yet, so nothing on that. I did want to address the upgrade from our shutdown to a purple tier, which does allow a few things to occur. So please get out, support our local shops, support our local restaurants. They're at least allowed to offer outdoor dining, so it's a little cold, but find a way to help them out, continue to hopefully get them through the time period and they survive. I do want to take a moment to publicly denounce what happened in Washington, D.C. recently. I think as elected leaders, we do need to be able to stand up and say that. What happened was horrible, should never happen, hopefully will never happen again. I certainly don't support it, and I haven't found or talked to a single person that supported it. So hopefully we move on, we heal, and we learn from that, and that does not happen ever again in this country. Finally, I want to say hi to my little angel, Savannah. Daddy loves you, and I'll be home soon. That's it.
All right. Hi, Savannah.
She's watching.
And, I couldn't agree with you more on the events in recent days at our nation's capital. Brett, well put. And next, I'd like to ask Councilmember Schaefer if you have anything to report.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. No meetings thus far, except for I did have a very interesting meeting with a group that is trying to combat illegal fireworks. We went through, at least in my neighborhood, a little bit of a traumatic time over the holidays where we saw lots and lots. I had somebody shooting a cannon up behind my house. Couldn't tell you what house it was from. This is a problem that we encounter every year for folks that have animals. I've experienced this myself. It is absolutely a really troubling time when you have an animal who absolutely is just beside herself and trying to deal with the fireworks and the noise and all that sort of thing. I'm not against the safe and sane fireworks, but I am most definitely opposed to the illegal fireworks. And as I had an email with the chief, it's very difficult to catch those folks in the act. But this group seems to have some pretty good ideas, and they've seen some other cities adopt ordinances that appear to be effective. I certainly want to hear more about it, but I was grateful to meet with them. That's it for me.
Yeah, keep us posted on that, Tim. And next, Vice Mayor Middleton.
Thank you, Mayor. This week I attended the PAL board meeting with Councilmember Burns, and also they have a new website, citrusheightspal.com. They've updated it and made it more user-friendly, and I checked it out. It's really exciting, so I'm hoping that everyone will go and sign up and check out all the new events that are being posted. As for regional meetings, I went to the Sacramento Valley Cal Cities board meeting, and we looked at housing policy and development policy and post-recovery issues that I'll keep you updated on. And I also attended the California Cities Housing Community Economic Development Policy Committee, where we discussed several housing bills that are coming that will impact our region and our statewide housing policy issues.
Thank you, Portia. And for me, I had my first meeting of the year today with the Sacramento Transportation Authority. Every 10 years, they open up the expenditure plan to look at changes that was written into Measure A. Sometimes you don't know how things are going to change or needs are going to change. This was a third public hearing this month, and next month we start arm wrestling over who gets what. So, everything's opened back up, and I'll be there fighting for citrus heights and trying to get our fair share. And other than that, RT, I don't believe is till the 24th. So I have nothing else to report, and we'll just move on along to public comment if we could, Amy.
The next item is public comment, and members of the public may address the council on any item of interest to the public and within the council's purview, or on any agenda item before or during the council's consideration of the item. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each. If you wish to address the council during the Zoom meeting, please use the raise hand function or *9 from a telephone to indicate your desire to speak. When your name is called, I will allow you to unmute your microphone to speak. I do want to note that I do have 4 written public comments, but they are for item number 9, and so I will read those when we get to item number 9. And in terms of hands raised, I currently do not see any for the regular public comment.
Okay, the next item, please.
The next item is consent calendar, items 4, 5, 6, 7, and 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, is that Tim on the motion?
No, Brett.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
So motion by Daniels, second by Bruins. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bruins,
Aye.
Councilmember Daniels,
Aye.
Councilmember Schaefer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Middleton,
Aye.
and Mayor Miller.
Aye. So let's move to item 8, please.
Item 8, public hearing. Subject is draft amendment to the general plan housing element. The recommendation is to review and comment on the draft amendment to the general plan housing element, find the project is exempt from CQA, and forward the draft to the California Housing and Community Development Department for review.
Thank you, Mayor Miller and Council. Casey Kempinar in the Planning Division. Can you guys all hear me okay?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That was a fast report.
Sorry about that, technical difficulties.
Oh, we'll do it again.
So tonight I'm going to give you an overview about why we're doing the housing element update, go over some brief facts about the background report, which makes the basis for our policies in the housing element, go over our vacant land inventory, and then also share some of the community feedback that we received thus far. So why do we update the housing element? Well, every 8 years, it's required by law. So that's one big reason why we do it. And the other major reason is to make sure it's still relevant and that we're still meeting the housing needs of the community. Housing element of the general plan is unique, that it's the one element that is actually reviewed and has to be approved by the state. So we're currently just finished our 2013 through 2021 cycle, and the one before you tonight will get us through 2029. So the first part is the background report, and that's where we track the demographic data, economic changes, housing trends, and anything related to housing from census data or from real estate data or other factors. So just a few tidbits. Not a lot has changed dramatically in terms of overcrowding or our ratio of renters to homeowners. It's stayed pretty consistent over the last 8 years. But a couple of tidbits you might be interested in the last 9 years, we've built 145 new housing units, and that's new subtracting demolitions. Median home price has raised quite a bit. However, we still remain pretty low comparative to the region. And the most challenging thing, of course, is the cost of construction has nearly doubled since 2002. So that's definitely changed how housing gets built. As I mentioned, there aren't a lot of policy changes proposed, and that's a function of our housing element being really successful and functional and meeting current standards. So you won't see a lot of changes in the policies itself because it's working pretty good. So just a couple of policy changes to note is, since the last update, we created the rental housing inspection program that's been really successful, and that helps ensure that our housing stock is preserved for the long term. We're no longer considering the feasibility of a resale inspection program, and that's largely because the rental housing inspection program has enabled code enforcement to ensure that our housing stock is well maintained. And we are continuing to focus on our green building and sustainability goals as a function of the Green Building Code. The topic of most concern generally for cities is the regional housing needs assessment. And this is the process where the state allocates new units to cities via the MPOs to ensure that the region and the state is accommodating future growth. So the way it works is the state projects how many housing units the state's going to need. They pass those units on to SACOG. SACOG then comes up with a methodology to determine how to divvy up those units between their member agencies. And then the city is required to show how they can accommodate the homes that they've been allocated. I just want to reiterate, most of you know that we as a city don't build housing. We just have to, for this process, we have to demonstrate we have land available to accommodate these housing units that have been assigned to us.
Casey, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Hi, Brett. When that allocation is determined, how do they do that as far as, we're a built-out city as opposed to other locations, everybody really around us that has lots of land to build? Is that taken into consideration, or is it population only, or is it a mix?
It's a mix. Yeah, they have a variety of factors they look at. They try to preserve the ratio of affordable units to non-affordable, and they're trying to get to a region parity on affordability levels in each community. But they do factor in available land. Our number is actually relatively low in comparison to a lot of the other agencies. As you can see on this screen, our share is about 700 units. There is agencies in the region that have the 3, 4s, and 6,000 units. So I think we fared pretty well, all things considered.
And so from what you just said, they're going to expect us to put up 700 units in the next 9 years or whatever?
We just have to ensure we have land available for 700 units. We don't have to build a single one.
Right. Thank
Does
you.
that make sense?
Oh, it makes sense. I just don't see that as realistic when we're, literally up probably into the 99% built out range, and we've, only seen 145 go up over the last, 8 years or whatever.
Sure.
I just hope that at some point we're not penalized because we're a built out city.
I can't predict what the state's going to do, but I think we've done a good job planning for the growth that we're anticipating, and I'll show you in a couple slides how we're going to accommodate this. And I think you'll be pretty happy with how we're going to do that. And in comparison to a lot of cities, I think we're in pretty good shape.
Thank you.
So in addition to accommodating the nearly 700 units, we're required to show different income categories, and it's based on the median family income, which is $80,000 in Sacramento County. So a portion of those have to be serve low and very low income households, and others can be moderate and above moderate. And that gets important. In a few slides, I'll talk about how HCD determines a piece of land accommodates affordable or not, and it has to do with density. So I'll talk about that in just a moment. So Councilmember Daniels, this is a slide I wanted to show you. As you can see, we've been doing a fair amount of planning over the last several years with some big projects that are actually helping meet our RENA obligations. So on the slide here, you can see Mitchell Farms, we're assuming 185 units because they're just getting started. Fair Oaks Senior Housing was approved by the council. Sunrise Points was approved by the council. Those are both deed restricted affordable housing. So those count towards our low and very low income. The Sunrise Tomorrow specific plan, that specific plan in draft form have about 1,200 units projected. We're only assuming 400 from that. And then another key tool to accommodate this is through ADUs. We've seen a huge uptick in the number of ADUs over the last year. is a function of state law and other zoning code changes that we've done here at the city. So we see a huge opportunity for 100 of those units to come from ADUs. Generally, we build about 6 a year. Last year, I think we almost doubled that. So we have quite a bit of increase. And we received a pot of money that we're going to use from the state to create a incentive program where we create pre-approved ADU plans. And that is generally one of the biggest barriers is coming up with the plans and getting the permit. So we're going to create a process to simplify that, to really hope that our ADUs can come in, because they are a great source of affordable housing. So you can see here, we have a surplus of available land. We have up to 839 units through these 5 projects. But in addition to that, outside the RENA process, we have some kind of backup or banked units for projects that we know may come in the future, just in case one of these other primary ones were to drop out. So Auburn Boulevard, Antelope Crossing, and then the Bear Paw Townhomes project. Those are all projects that we know can support housing, and that they'll be our backup in case something were to drop out. And I mentioned density. And so in HCD's eyes, the default density is 30 units per acre. So what that means is they assume that if you have a piece of land that's 30 units per acre, that counts as affordable. It doesn't matter if that's in Citrus Heights or San Francisco, that's just their rule. So luckily, you're able to do an analysis to determine what actually means affordable in your city. And we did this 8 years ago, and we're able to get HCD to sign off on it. And again, we did this analysis again in partnership with SACOG, and they had a partnership with UCLA. And so they updated our analysis. And luckily, our level that results in affordable housing is 20 units per acre, which we have an abundance of land available still that supports 20 units per acre. So that helps meet the needs for those low and very low incomes that we're required to do. So luckily, that is in our favor. Community feedback obviously is challenging during the COVID era, but luckily we have a great communications team that we partnered with on this. And we did a survey via flash vote, and we had over 400 people respond. We did a Facebook Live event with our housing team. And then we also had a dedicated website that has our draft policies on it. And we met with affordable housing developers. And the good news is affordable housing developers supported what the UCLA study showed, in that we are doing a good job. We have adequate land. We have good policies that support affordable housing, and 20 units per acre hits the mark for them in Citrus Heights. So that means we're doing a good job. And of the community feedback, the biggest takeaway for me was there's definitely a diverse need and types of housing. The community wants more than just single family housing. They like to see things like ADUs and duplexes and apartments. So there's a wide variety of housing needed. So I think that was a good takeaway. A third of residents thought the ADUs were a good way to provide affordable housing, but the biggest challenge continues to be housing affordability in general. It continues to be very expensive throughout the region and the state. So for CEQA, for compliance with CEQA, we took a look at what was being proposed as part of this project. And as I mentioned, the policy changes are very minor in nature. And then the vacant land inventory includes only projects that are entitled or going through environmental review. So they don't pose the chance to have a significant impact on the environment. So we are recommending that the council find this project exempt from CEQA review. The schedule, so the way that this works is you have to send a draft to HCD before you adopt it, and they have 3 months to review that. So ideally tomorrow I'll send this to HCD. They'll have 3 months, so we'll hear back sometime in March. They'll probably have some minor changes that we need to make. We'll bring those back before the council in April, and then we'll send this draft off to HCD for their formal certification, which is important because if we don't have a certified housing element, we are not eligible for various funding sources. I will add that the Planning Commission also recognizing we have to have this all done by May 31st. they recognized that it would behoove us to skip that step and come back straight to the council to make the final adoption after HCD's review. So save a little bit of time there. So the Planning Commission recommends that the council review and comment on the draft housing element. If you have any comments, find that the project is exempt, and then direct staff to forward the draft to HCD for their review and consideration. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Casey. Are there questions from council?
I have a couple.
Okay.
And this is really, they're almost rhetorical, to be honest, because I kind of know the answer. I just want to make it known. Casey, what would you attribute so that the cost has nearly doubled since this study was done, the cost to build a home? What would you attribute the increased cost of building a home to the fact that it's to the point where it's doubled?
Well, a lot's changed. That factor was since 2002, so a lot's changed since then. You know, at first it was the fires. There was a big demand for labor and materials. That's continued to this day. There's still rebuilding from those large fires, and just all the cost for labor and materials is beginning to just grow rapidly due to the amount of development going on in the state right now.
Have we seen state regulation, i.e., requiring that you have solar panels on your home? And I did hear recently that there's some legislation circulating that there will be no new homes built with natural gas as a source of heat or cooking. Have you heard anything to that respect?
The Green Building Code now, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, does require solar to be a part of new homes. There are agencies throughout the state that have adopted no gas policies as a function of their programs to combat climate change, but it's not a statewide mandate to my knowledge at this point.
Thanks, Casey.
Thanks, Tim. Any other questions before I open the public hearing? Not hearing any. This is a public hearing, and open it. Do we have any comments, Ms. Van?
I do not have any written comments. Members of the public on Zoom may use the raise hand function. I currently do not see any raised hands.
All right. Well, then, are there any further comments by council? I'll close the public hearing, by the way. Any further comments?
I'd just like to commend Casey for a job well done. And if there are no objections, I'd like to move the item. Would you like me to read what we're going to be voting on?
First, I'd ask, can we take them all together, City Attorney?
Just as Casey's outlined there, we'll take two motions, and Councilmember Bruins, no, you don't need to, you can just read them out as you did right there on the screen.
Okay, so my first motion is I move to find the project is to be exempt from CEQA for section 15061B3A.
Second.
I second.
Motion by Bruin, second by Schaefer. Clerk Van, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Bruins,
Right?
Councilmember Daniels,
Aye.
Councilmember Schaefer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Middleton,
Aye.
and Mayor Miller.
Aye.
And then I'd like to move to direct staff to forward the draft housing element to HCD for review.
I second that motion as well.
Motion by Bruin, second by Schaefer.
Councilmember Bruins,
Aye?
Councilmember Daniels,
Aye.
Councilmember Schaefer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Middleton,
Aye.
and Mayor Miller.
Aye. All right, we're ready for the regular calendar. Thank you, Casey.
Great
Next-
job, Casey.
Next item, regular calendar, item number 9. The subject is new Sylvan purchase and sale agreement. The recommendation is to adopt a resolution approving the purchase and sale agreement of Sylvan property to Woodside Homes.
Good evening, Mayor Miller and members of City Council. I am Megan Huber, Economic Development and Communications Manager for the city. And if you'll give me just a moment, I seem to be having a screen reversal. Colleen, is there any way that you can pull this up on your end?
I will.
From a formatting
Yes.
perspective. Apologies for the IT trouble.
Looks good on our screens.
It does?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Do you have a full screen
Oh yeah.
Yes.
slide? Oh, okay. Well, that's just me then. Thank you for letting me know, and we'll keep this show rolling. So I am joined by my colleagues, Community Development Director Colleen McDuffie and Ryan Jones, City Attorney, to discuss consideration of a purchase and sale agreement for our new Sylvan property. And our agenda this evening will be to review the project history as well as the offering memorandum response and move through the terms of the draft purchase and sale agreement. We will review fiscal and benefit analysis of the proposed potential project, as well as make an introduction to Woodside Homes, the respondee of the offering memorandum, and then move into a recommended action. So with that, we'll get started reviewing this project's history. As council will recall, in September of 2019, the city purchased the 11.3 acre Sylvan property for $3.4 million. This was a strategic acquisition to be able to direct the use and steward the land development. In December 2019, the property was declared surplus. And in April 2020, City Council set planning and design goals. And we'll bring Colleen up for a quick recap of those.
Good evening, Council. As Megan mentioned, I will just review quickly these planning and design goals that you adopted in April 2020. And the reason you adopted these is you wanted to let any prospective purchasers know what your vision was for the site. So there were 4 categories of goals. And the first one is just the general concept. And the adopted goals in this category support the idea that this parcel is a place of cultural and social significance to Citrus Heights residents. Before I continue, Megan, on my screen, you're a slide behind. There you go. Okay.
Thank you.
So the goals, again, under concept, the first here is that any project developed should represent the city's continued commitment to Sylvan Corners and the Auburn Boulevard corridor. Any project developed here should support compatible uses without detracting from the Stock Ranch Retail Center. And any development here should enhance the area as a geographical center and a social and cultural hub of the city. There are 4 design goals you see here, and they recognize that this property is a gateway to Auburn Boulevard, and it will serve as a revitalization to the corridor. The first goal here is that any development on this site should activate this corner by fronting all buildings, including residential, outward toward the street and the plaza. The second goal here is that the development should have enhanced pedestrian connections to nearby businesses, Sylvan Plaza, and the adjoining school. Any parking areas should be screened from view from both Auburn Boulevard and Sylvan Plaza. And the fourth one is that development here should incorporate Sylvan Plaza into the design. The next category was land use. And the overarching idea here is that this property is essential to the improvement of Auburn Boulevard. But it also, the goals here recognize that there are a variety of ways or a variety of land uses that could occur here to complement the area. So the first goal here is that any project developed here should consider the adjacency to the adjoining school and cemetery. If the project contained commercial uses, the second bullet called for outdoor areas that would connect to the plaza. In developing these land use goals, there were only two, or really one category of land use that the council prohibited, and that was auto-intensive uses such as gas stations and drive-throughs. And this third bullet said that if the site was developed for housing, a wide variety or flexibility of housing could occur here. It could be rental or for sale. It could be mixed use or designed for specific needs, such as workforce or teacher housing. The final category was financial. The city purchased the property in order to play an active role in its development, recognizing that development here could attract additional private investment to the area. The one fundamental goal listed here that the council adopted is that development here should be financially feasible and provide long-term economic benefits to the city.
Thank you, Colleen. Continuing with project history, in April 2020, a culmination of discussion with the adjacent cemetery resulted in a decline from the cemetery to purchase a portion of the land. And in July of 2020, the city issued an offering memorandum to share the development opportunity and invite interested parties to respond. During the time this offering memorandum was open and available between July and October, the city executed ongoing proactive communications to ensure this opportunity was shared as widely as possible with the development community. Some of those channels included on-site signage, e-news and social media, News Bureau, a co-star listing, direct outreach, as well as meetings with interested parties. All interest culminated in one response when the offering memorandum closed from Woodside Homes. In December of 2020, city staff and Woodside Homes worked towards the negotiation of terms of a draft purchase and sale agreement to bring before City Council this evening, which is of course subject to council approval. And in preparation for this meeting, an agenda item, because this project and this site is so highly visible and important to our community, we wanted to ensure maximum public engagement. So with that, letters were delivered to adjacent residents and property owners, notifying of this upcoming City Council meeting and agenda item. And multi-channel news release was executed in e-news, social media, and distribution to hyperlocal news outlets. And certainly our community is very interested. We received 4 public comments regarding this agenda item, and we are committed to ongoing public engagement for the project. And with that, I'll pass it over to Colleen to review the offering memorandum response.
Thank you. As Megan just mentioned, we did receive one response, and that response was from Woodside Homes. You may be familiar with Woodside Homes. They are one of the largest home builders in the Western United States. Currently, they have 63 different communities selling homes at this time, and they're very active in our Sacramento area. You've I'd be surprised if you had not seen some of their subdivisions as you travel to our neighbors, but they do enjoy a top 10 market rank within the Sacramento metro area. As part of our request for companies that might want to purchase the property, we did ask that they submit a conceptual site plan or description of how they could see the site developing. What Woodside Homes has shown for their conceptual site plan is a single family detached home product. This site plan here shows about 93 lots. Again, these would be for single family detached for sale homes, so it's not a rental project. They're proposing two different product types on the site. On the kind of the orange color that you see on this site plan, those would be what they're calling cottage lots. There would be 24 of those, and those are, they would be alley loaded. So their front doors would front out toward the plaza and out towards Auburn Boulevard. And you would not see their garages. They would access their garages from an alley. These lots are about 35 feet wide and 75 feet deep. The yellow lots that you see here, they are calling bungalow lots. There are 69 of those in this schematic. They are a little bit wider than the cottage lots, about 40 feet wide, 75 feet deep. Just to kind of walk a little bit through the site plan, you'll see they are showing two access points off of Auburn Boulevard. Those driveways correspond to where the driveways were, if you recall, with the school. So they basically are showing to use those existing two curb cuts. They are aiming to preserve some of the existing trees, the mature trees that are on the site. You'll see they do show a connection to Sylvan Plaza. And another interesting feature of the site is they do show a storm drainage basin up there near the plaza, which that does not sound too interesting, but that could be landscaped and developed in a way that would really be a nice amenity next to Sylvan Plaza. If you want to move to the next slide, one thing I wanted to make really clear tonight is the item on your agenda tonight is the purchase and sale agreement. And what I've shown you is just a potential schematic of how the site could develop. So the purchase and sale agreement you're considering tonight deals with the terms of the purchase only. It's not related at all to project approval. So should the council approve the purchase and sale agreement tonight, Woodside Homes will then need to submit an application to the city for review, just like any other development project does. It will need to go through our normal development review process, and that will include, of course, complying with the California Environmental Quality Act. They will need a host of entitlements. We've listed those on the right-hand side of the slide here. These are very typical for development projects. And they will be processed, as I mentioned, just like any other project. There will be public review, there will be planning commission and city council public hearings, like any other project would. The last item that's listed on this slide here under the entitlements is a bit unique, and that is the affordable housing program. We mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, and Megan, you can move the slide along now if you like. Back in December 2019, the city council had declared this property surplus. And this was a procedure the council had to go through due to a law called the Surplus Lands Act. And this state law says that if the city sells land and that land ultimately gets developed for residential uses, that 15% of those units must be affordable. So for example, in this case, if the site were to be developed with 93 homes, 14 of those homes would need to be affordable. Under the terms of the Surplus Lands Act, affordable means it must be affordable to persons who make 80% of the median income. So in this regard, the words affordable housing are perhaps a misnomer. A better term, I think, is workforce housing. At the bottom of this slide, it shows an example of what this affordability requirement would mean on this site. So the existing household income for a 3-person household in Citrus Heights is just under $78,000. When you talk about affordability, there's a table you would look at, and depending on the size of your household, it goes up or down from this number. Under this program that we will develop in conjunction with Woodside, if they are approved tonight, these 14 homes that would need to be affordable to people who make $62,000 a year. So some of these homes, there will be a regulatory agreement attached to them. They will have a lower sales price in order to meet this requirement for an affordable home component on this site.
Colleen,
So pardon me?
Ms. Jeannie, may I ask a question?
Yes.
So on this affordability, do the buyers then have to show an income at that lower level, or could anybody buy them?
No, thank you. That's a great question. So there will be a regulatory agreement developed for this. And what the law actually says is that these affordability criteria has to be attached to these homes for a period of 45 years. So we would really need to work in partnership with the developer, because they will be contacted by potential home buyers. And there is a window of what these income levels can be for these potential buyers. They have to make enough to qualify, but they can't make too much. So there is a window in there, and those are the persons who would be able to qualify for these homes.
Thank you.
Can I follow up with the question, Colleen?
Sure.
So the initial purchase we can control, but what about resale? How is that handled over the period of 45 years?
Right. So there will be language attached to the deed of these homes, and anytime it's going to be resold, that there will need to be an income qualified person has to buy it. The next buyer also has to be income qualified. So that will continue for the entire 45-year period.
Oh.
And that's actually recorded on the property. So that'll be something that, you can't, a next generation buyer can't all of a sudden try to do away with. It'll be part of, and this is just for the 14 lots. We're not talking about, the bulk of the project.
Right.
If there's no other questions on this part, I think this is a good time to actually hand it over to Ryan Jones, our city attorney, to talk about the purchase and sale agreement.
Yeah, thank you very much, Colleen. Yes, Ryan Jones, city attorney. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. So I wanted to highlight a few points of the purchase and sale agreement that's before you. You have the contract that's actually in the agenda packet, but these are the major deal points. The biggest one is the purchase price, and it's $4.17 million. But that's an approximation because it is dependent on how many lots they actually get out of this project. So it's $50,000 for the larger lots, $30,000 for the smaller lots. If the 93 estimated lot stands, 4.17 would be the ultimate purchase price. Could be a little bit higher than that, could be a little bit lower, but it's going to be in that ballpark. And part of the deal point is there's 2 phases of the deposits. If this deal goes forward, the purchase agreement tonight, they'd have 3 days to provide a $200,000 deposit. And in the next 90 days, during their due diligence period, to determine whether they want to contribute another $200,000. Once we get to that point and that $400,000 is in, and that would be, they give us the continuation notice as it's termed in the deal, that makes the deposit non-refundable. There will then be a period of time, which we're estimating to be probably about a year, to go through all those entitlements that Colleen had gone through. And that's, once that is finalized and hopefully the entitlements do come through, then the remainder of that purchase price, which would be approximately 3.77 million, would be paid to the city. I'll pass it back over to Megan at this point. Thank you.
Ryan, hold on, I have a question regarding that.
You bet.
So, since that balance doesn't come due until that time, what protects us from them just letting it sit there for years if they decide they don't want to develop it right away?
Well, eventually, they only have so long under this before they lose it. And if they don't develop it within, well, the initial term is 1 year, but really they have until March 2023, which is about 2 years, to finish us to do all the entitlements. If that doesn't happen, then they would lose the ownership of it. But they've got the incentive, and hopefully Mr. Bayless will speak to this. They're the ones who should be motivated to want to make this happen even sooner than that time period. But should it not happen, it would come out of their ownership, and we would put it back on the market for another seller, another buyer.
So did I hear you say that it would be just 1 year from now or additional time after that?
They have, the total time frame is March of 2023. So you have a total of 2 years, but the incentive in there is to do it within 1 year.
Okay.
And we will be working as the city to make that done even faster. And if all the entitlements are done sooner than that, that would close escrow because all those contingencies would be removed.
Okay, thank you.
But just to be clear, the only thing that could really hold this up is going through the entitlement process, right?
Correct. That's the major deal point.
Okay, thank you.
And Ryan, could you paint the worst case scenario? What would the sale price be if the minimum amount of lots got approved and the entitlements were there? We couldn't get all the entitlements approved. What's the worst case scenario here?
I don't see it being less than 4 million. I mean, it's going to be north of $4 million because let's say there's just 1 or 2 lots less than that. You should still be in that window.
Thank you, Ryan. If there are no other questions, we'll move right along here. As Colleen mentioned, a very important planning and design goal for this project was that it be financially feasible. And with that in mind, staff would like to review some numbers as it relates to fiscal analysis and the purchase and potential sale of the property. What you see before you is a summary of costs as it relates to the purchase, both project to date and forecasted through estimated closing date. The cost of purchase, including escrow, is $3,403,907. There were ancillary costs related to preparing the site to have the offering memorandum go live, as well as maintenance needs like fencing and similar. The interest paid on the line of credit that was leveraged to make the purchase through January of this year is $191,919. And then estimated interest due through the estimated project completion date of January 2022 is $149,266, bringing total project costs through January 2022 to $3,802,085. Now looking at the flip side, the potential sale, taking into account the total project cost against the draft purchase and sale agreement price of $4,100,000. Again, dependent on number of lots and entitlements, there will be an estimated net gain of almost $300,000. Now, while that is a success metric, that the project is financially feasible, even more importantly, there are metrics that we can speak to that illustrate the benefit of long-term economic impact of the project, and we will review those now. First and foremost, by building on a long dormant corner of the city, we are activating the land to begin generating sales tax dollars. This will come right in line as the city begins to receive, excuse me, I think I said sales tax, I meant property tax. This will come right in line with the city beginning to receive property tax in general in fiscal year 22-23. And as you can see, the estimate here ballparks that will be almost $30,000 annually. You can see at the bottom, the city does receive 0.08816% of total property tax generation. So that is the root of that calculation. More exponentially, there is a larger economic impact generated when we add population and families to the area by adding population to the trade area based on both mortgage qualifying incomes as well as median household incomes in Citrus Heights. We estimate that this would generate $1.2 million in economic impact annually spent on consumer goods. Now, while we cannot guarantee that all of that economic impact will happen solely inside of city limits, firstly, as the economic development manager, I would hope that folks are shopping and loving local, but more importantly, in the immediate trade area where this neighborhood would exist, there is a need for additional population and trade area support. So I'm really speaking to ensuring neighborhood vitality along our Auburn Boulevard corridor. What you see is a snapshot of current stats as it relates to the commercial district along Auburn Boulevard. There are about 130 commercial properties representing almost 1 million square feet of commercial space. And right now it sits at about 16% vacancy. Which is high, and there is much opportunity for improvement. And right now, in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic and associated health orders, there is a trend towards increased vacancy with a net negative absorption year over year as of third quarter of this year. And then if we look right around the corner at our Stock Ranch, we know that there is an additional 75,000 square feet of retail space yet to be developed. So when we look holistically at total demand, there is a promise of adding new population and families to the trade area to be able to not only support our existing businesses, so these would be folks patroning Ciro's Pizza and Chando's Tacos and hyper local businesses, but what it does, it also increases our statistics to be able to attract additional retail and build out the trade area further. So with all of that in mind, we wanted to give council and our community an opportunity to meet Woodside Homes directly. And I would like to introduce Jim Bayless, Land Acquisition Manager, to say hello and make some comments.
Welcome, Mr. Bayless.
Well, good evening. It's my pleasure to be here. And first of all, excellent presentation by Megan and Colleen. I think they've covered it very well, and Ryan filled in on the legal details. But I also wanted to say, I may be the only one, but it was a real pleasure for me to get to hear Casey's presentation about the amendment to your housing element. And I've got to say that you guys are in better shape than any other city I know. And I've looked at quite a few of these. So you guys should feel good about that. We're really excited about this opportunity. because, first of all, Colleen used the word workforce housing, and I know that some people like that term and some people don't, but it's a term that I like, and it's really the market niche that really inspires me the most. And you know, it's one thing to build some big fancy house, but to me, it's a lot more meaningful to build workforce housing. And so, for that reason, we're also very excited about the opportunity to build on all the improvements that Citrus Heights has invested in the Auburn Boulevard corridor. And we embrace the concepts of making it residential, but being more dense, more walkable, outward facing, and even a little bit more urban, I guess you could say. So we think this is a wonderful opportunity. I've got to tell you that we originally, when we sat down with the engineer, we came up with substantially more units, I think around 100. And then we said, wait a minute, let's think a little bit more about quality. And so we looked a little bit at making the circulation better and about providing better buffering to the existing single-family residential at the north end and preserving as many as possible of the beautiful mature trees on the site, particularly the oak trees. So that's how we ended up with 93. I think that's a very achievable number. We didn't, squeeze it really tightly and try to, force that last unit in, but it typically does change one way or another as we work through the details with planning and engineering and various utility providers. I did want to say that storm detention is not something that's really very pretty or something that we desire to do, but the state of California mandates that we detain and treat, i.e. allow to percolate as much stormwater runoff as we can on site. And so we really have no choice under state law but to do that in a portion of the project. So I hope that makes a little bit more sense to you in that context. And one other small point I wanted to add is that I'm sorry I wasn't prepared with the specific figure, but the home building industry has found that actually in the first year of occupancy, new homeowners spend considerably more and pay considerably more sales taxes to the community as they do all the things that owners of new homes do, whether it's buy drapes or fix up their backyard or buy furniture that fits the new house. So I think you've probably underestimated that potential benefit a little bit in that slide. So I would be happy to address and hopefully answer any questions that you might have about our proposal and our timeline. I would also like to say that in response to the question one council member had about, well, will we sit on it? That's really not what we do. We buy land for one reason, and that's to build homes. And so when we have our deposit up and we're investing money in the entitlement process, clearly we're aiming at one outcome, and that's to build out the community. So, I mean, obviously there are things outside of our control, like the market cycle that happened in 2008, but barring something catastrophic like that, I would say it's extremely unlikely that we would have any motivation to slow down.
Thanks, Jim. I do agree that the economic impact slide was probably a conservative estimate. We stuck with conservative numbers so as not to
Right.
overpromise and underdeliver. So agree completely.
Yeah. Okay.
And thank you for joining us. So with that, Council, we have given a plethora of information in a lot of different categories and segments as it relates to this project. So wanted to take a quick moment as we come to the end of the presentation to provide a summary analysis of some of the high-level points that we've talked about this evening. First and foremost, we have found that this potential project meets the majority of the planning and design goals adopted by City Council. We appreciate that all units are for sale, single family homes, not rental products. Additionally, from a traffic perspective, residential use is best case scenario in terms of traffic generation. Additionally, as the data showed, this potential project generates economic impact, supports neighborhood vitality, and then continued revitalization of our Auburn Boulevard. And finally, we are very pleased that this offer is from a reputable, capable developer. And with that, the recommended action before you this evening is to approve the resolution to approve the purchase and sale agreement of Sylvan property to Woodside Homes. And as a reminder, this solely has to do with the sale of the property and is not related in any way to the project scope. That would be a future action. If approved, we would embark on project review and entitlement process, including rezoning and a general plan amendment. So with that, I will open it up for questions.
Thank you, Megan, Colleen, and Mr. Bayless. Oh, and I can't forget you, Ryan, with the major deal points. Thank you very much. Before I go to public comment, are there questions from council of staff or Mr. Bayless?
Not yet. Not me.
Okay, let's go to public comment on this.
Oh, yes, we received 4 written public comment, and I will go ahead and bring those up now. So the first public comment, as a resident of Citrus Heights living behind Sylvan Cemetery, I look forward to the sale and use of this lot. I would like to see the city ensure there is at least one restaurant or coffee shop with outdoor seating that current neighborhood residents can enjoy. W. Hibben. The next one, it is probably advisable that the city stop paying interest on the loan used to purchase the property. With that said, I also think that the city could use some income from business taxes. I propose that the city consider working with the developer to build residential over storefronts for all buildings facing Auburn Boulevard. This would allow for some commercial buildings that could benefit the local houses and the community. It would be fun to have a little neighborhood wine bar, cafe, maybe a barber, a restaurant, or comic book store. As a possible mitigation against vacancy, the commercial lots under residential could have a clause that they be allowed to be built out into residential, under residential if vacant for a period of time, perhaps 6 months or a year, after all other properties in the subdivision are built. Thank you. This is Nathan Champion. As a 30-plus year resident in this location, my property backs up to this location. I am against this sale of homes being built. The traffic is already so increased. The wildlife is being depleted. And if this sale goes through, this is the nail on the coffin that I will sell my home and take my family and business out of the entire state. The heck with Mother Nature is what City of CH is saying. And it's just, I have the email is Brina Ann. Next, the last public comment. I am not an expert or a city planner, but as our city struggles with the budget after Mr. Tingle retirement, I think great care should be given to placing homes so close to an elementary school. We need some attractions that will bring people to Citrus Heights to spend money, not just more housing. I thought this was supposed to be a sports complex originally. Can the council look into something more diverse than just getting rid of the property for a little profit? They should not have bothered to buy it and tie up the money. If they were just going to sell it for housing, the school district could have done that. I have mentioned in the past sports complexes for traveling sports teams that have revitalized cities that were devastated after losing manufacturing jobs, etc. Let's broaden our horizons. Lori Egan. And that was the last public comment. And if members of the public would wish to speak during Zoom, they can use the raise hand function. And I currently do not see any raised hands.
Okay. Questions and comments from council?
I have a couple of questions and some comments as well. Before we put this up for bid, what kind of analysis did we do if we subdivided the property 11.34 acres at $4 million? Does sort of limit the market for that particular property? You have to have a buyer that's interested in buying a property that's 11.5 acres or so. Did we do any analysis of subdividing the property and potentially having 2 5.5 acre parcels that might have been might have had a better market audience? And also, was there any analysis done with regard to public projects financed by certificates or COPs, certificates of participation, similar to a municipal bond, where the community, certainly I've heard lots of comments where the community is interested in some kind of sports complex, but the city is certainly not in a position to finance that sort of venture. So that would be a method to look at that. And I'm just curious if that was at all part of the analysis.
Colleen, do you want to start?
Sure, yeah. We did not specifically look to your first question into, in the memorandum saying, hey, we're going to split this into 2 parcels, 2 different 5 acre parcels. We wanted to provide the most flexibility. That said, someone could have, nothing would have stopped anyone from just saying, I would like to purchase half of this property. We really tried to keep that offering memorandum as broad and flexible as we could. In regards to the second, if I could address the kind of the parks issue, first of all, as you know, Sunrise Parks and Rec is really who runs our park programs and facilities in the city. And we did meet with them and ask them, if they were interested in this site in any way. And what in that discussion, what they told us was, they have a park master plan, and they know that there are definitely areas in the city that are deficient in park improvements. But this particular geographic area of the city with Rush Park right down the road is not deficient. And if they, their preference would be, as they provide more park facilities in the city, is really to try to go into those existing areas where they are lacking park facilities. Does that answer your question?
And pardon me that I wasn't as articulate as I intended to be. It doesn't necessarily have to be a park. It could be, like I said, a sports complex, something as a pay for fee type of arrangement, similar to what we have with the community center that is booked and it provides a return on investment. Those are certainly things that I would look at. I look at this property and I think it is culturally, it's the center of the city, and it has some real cultural significance. And I'm not sure that I see just putting more homes there really complements that that particular point. So that's my biggest concern here. I probably, with the city's current financial situation, I probably wouldn't have made the decision to purchase the property because what we're winding up with is what we could have had. What the school district could have sold the property, and it would have been just the same as what we're getting now. We certainly could have done a zoning that would prevent. Could have changed the zone to prevent gas stations and all kinds of other things that would be undesirable there. So that's just my comment. I just, and I would like to see a fixed price that says, okay, let's just do this for 4 million. That way we know that it's not going to be, we're not going to wind up being less than we expected that it's going to be. So I would like to see a fixed price, not have the city be in a position where it's, in the strictest sense, not necessarily a conflict of interest, but it is does have an impact where if we approve so many more lots, we actually get more money for the property. And I'm not sure that that's probably the best perspective to come from. So, thank you.
Thank you. Who wants to go next?
So I'll go next. It's Jeannie. Thank you for your comments, Tim. And thank you to everybody who has been a part of this presentation. One of the things we have to do as a council is take a look at the short-term as well as the long-term impact on the decisions we make. And I know initially going into this project, I was an advocate for mixed use because I am an advocate of mixed use wherever it works. I remember back many years ago when I got my first exposure to form-based codes, which is different from regular zoning. What an interesting concept that was at that time to me. And in many ways, our plans for Auburn Boulevard emulate some of those principles. But I think looking at the reality of the world we are living in right now, we have a lot of vacancies, commercial vacancies in Citrus Heights, and many of them at Sylvan Corners. And to build more commercial only adds to that problem. And I just see a synergistic vision going forward, even with the concerns we have with revenue and budgets right now. That's a reality. But we have a lot of things happening at the same time that will feed into each other and I think complement each other. One is if we approve this tonight, we have some good quality housing that's affordable, that is going to encourage further development of our business community, knowing that we have built-in consumers to participate in not only retail, but other services as well. I would like, as one of the commenters stated, to have had a little coffee shop and some commercial there. But the reality of it is that we do need a mixed level of housing in Citrus Heights. We've got a very mid to high-end housing project going on at Mitchell Village. And I think this complements with workforce housing, addressing the needs of the majority of the people that live in or will buy housing in Citrus Heights. I think the key is how it's designed, aesthetically, how it looks, the traffic flow, and the lay of the land as it's developed. And that's, I know, coming down the line. I do support the fact that we bought this property because the school district could have put anything on that corner. And it would have been a much different scenario if we hadn't, and they controlled who the buyer was going to be. And so I would also like to see more recreational opportunities in Citrus Heights, but I really don't think this is the location for it. As Colleen said, we have a beautiful big park right up the road. And so I am in support of this project. I am excited that Woodside Homes is the developer that's interested in coming to Citrus Heights. Got an excellent reputation throughout Sacramento and the Western United States. And I want to applaud staff because they do such a good job in marketing and presenting what we have to offer, not only on this particular site, but as a city as a whole. And so I am pleased to support this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie. Brett, comments?
Sure. I would start by saying that I appreciate staff's effort to put as much lipstick on this as possible. There are some benefits to it, and they pointed them out, and hopefully we will see those if it goes forward. And I greatly appreciate that a developer with the status and reputation of Woodside is coming forward if it does get developed that way. But I think that the sound that we heard really throughout Citrus Heights tonight was a big thud. It's just a big thud. It's an incredible disappointment. You know, the whole point of taking this on and spending so much staff time on it and stuff like that was to see that it became something different, that it was a destination type of property. And I just had all these visions of these, you know, stores and homes together, and this energy and this destination kind of a thing. And it just isn't there. And it's not there because I think where we find ourselves today. And some of that is our fault, and that's on the financial side. I think if we weren't financing this deal, this property, the purchase of this property, and having to pay that interest month after month after month until something does happen, I wouldn't support this. I would say let's just hold on to it. You know, it's unfortunate that only one developer came forward, but maybe there's another way of doing something. But that's not where we're at. So each month that this sits there with the unknown, and who knows where we're going. I mean, good God, you know, a little more than a year ago, nobody thought we'd be where we are right now. And, you know, with the economy hurting so bad, businesses hurting so bad, you know, a mixed-use development could go up and be completely vacant of businesses. But it's just unfortunate. It's very sad. It's a big thud, and I don't know if it could even be any different. And so I'm going to be inclined to support it at this point. I just wish we didn't have to support it. And that's, again, not a slap at staff, and it's certainly not a slap at Woodside. I think if it does go forward, that they're going to put some homes in there that are going to be fine. I am really terribly disappointed with the aspect of the homes that'll face Auburn Boulevard, because I think there could have been possibly an opportunity at a development like this that may have transitioned one day into some small businesses that front Auburn Boulevard, not unlike that you see in transitional overlays around the city where some homes have been turned into some businesses and things like that. And maybe that could have worked, but I don't see that it's going to be possible with the way that it is put together. But not a good spot and a very disappointing night. And it's just that we find ourselves where we are, and I don't know how it could be any different at this point. That's it.
Thank you, Brett. Vice Mayor Middleton.
Yes, I don't know if I'd call this so much of a thud. This is a great way for us to pivot. When we took on the responsibility of purchasing this project and coming up with all these ideas, we realized that we absolutely had to pivot, and throughout the state, throughout our county, we must meet. And staff did a wonderful job of pivoting and marketing this piece of, you know, what is the center of our city, geographically right next to a middle school, to make sure that we can develop workforce housing. And that's critical, and that's key. And to do that and to put it up for sale late last year, and to turn around and have us an offer to continue redeveloping and to continue dreaming about what Citrus Heights can be. I think actually we deserve to pat ourselves in the back, and definitely deserve to commend staff for being so innovative and creative during a very difficult time.
Thank you, Portia. I had a little trouble with your video, but I think we heard your entire statement. And with that, you know, I may be repeating some of the things said. For me, it was imperative. The school district was going to be looking at getting as much money for this property. It was zoned for, I believe, RD 30. So we could have easily been looking at a project proposed to be apartments, a gas station, drive-through restaurants, another strip mall that we don't need. So I think it was very important to take control of this. And yes, it did cost us a little bit in interest payments, but the goal was to break even, and I think we're doing that maybe a little better. One of the major goals of our general plan is home ownership. And we have about an equal amount of renters and homeowners, and to increase the home ownership increases pride in our city. And I think that's very important. When we talk about low income, we're talking about entry level teachers and policemen, as for an example. Any kind of use, as far as traffic goes, this residential is the least impactful. And I have to digress a little bit or back up. My history goes a long way back with this property. I raised my kids out there on baseball, softball, and soccer. And so it is bittersweet for me. I would love to see a sports complex, but you also have to have the surrounding infrastructure like hotels to support out-of-town teams. I'd love to see that, but it just doesn't pencil out for us. And a key factor, we have 3 schools within walking distance. So New Sylvan Middle School, Carriage, and Mesa Verde. And this is going to add children to our schools. And I think that's very important. You know, too many of our kids go outside of our city limits. And I think this would be very helpful to the enrollment in the San Juan School District in our schools in Citrus Heights. And again, I'm repeating, this is going to help the surrounding small businesses, and I think encourage redevelopment around, continued around Sylvan Corners. But if we look at the original redevelopment and the coffee shop across the street, I believe it's a Starbucks, that has not seen full occupancy since it was built. And to even think about building and adding more retail and more business and more commercial to Auburn Boulevard, we need customers. And so that is a reason why, those reasons is why I would support this. And with that, I think that concludes my comments, but I don't see this as a thud. I see this as you know, closing one chapter and moving on to the next. And I think some of these discussions we're having, we can talk about during the planning stages with, you know, if we want to look at some work, live, or whatever, I think that may come up during the whole development process and review. But in my understanding, and I guess a question I have for Ryan, is this totally a unit price? In other words, is the sales price based on those figures you gave us of 50,000 and 30,000?
Correct, it is. And there's a reason for that. If for some reason we were to rezone it as, you know, low density and only allow 20 units in there, this project just doesn't pencil for them. So it is tied to the number of units, but I guess there's a motivation on both sides that this 93 units is pretty much, we're going to be within 1 or 2 of that is the estimation of staff.
Yeah. And having said this about the whole sports complex, it's in the ballpark, the number. And the unit price becomes the lump sum price once that's all determined. So I think we need to.
Mayor, one more question.
Yeah, Jeannie.
So do these units then add to our RENA requirement that the numbers we heard earlier did not include this project? Is that correct?
Councilmember Bruins, Casey Kempton, our planning manager here. Sorry about that. Yes, we did not include these numbers. We weren't sure as we were preparing the vacant land inventory what the outcome would be from this project, so we did not include them. And as you saw, we have an excess, so we figured it was best to not include them at this time. We did assume about 100 units on Auburn Boulevard, and that could include this if we wanted to, but in our eyes, it hadn't factored this in.
Okay, that was just a point of information. Thank you. Okay.
Well, with that, what's the pleasure of the council?
So I move that we issue a resolution to approve the purchase and sale agreement of Sylvan property to Woodside Homes.
I second.
Motion by Bruin, second by Middleton. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Bruins,
Aye.
Councilmember Daniels,
Reluctantly, yes.
Councilmember Schaefer,
No.
Vice Mayor Middleton,
Yes.
and Mayor Miller.
Yes. And thank you for joining us tonight, Mr. Bayless. I appreciate it. And again, thank you to Megan, Colleen, and Ryan,
Thank you.
and Casey. All right. Well, with that, we'll move on to the next item.
The next item is regular calendar, item number 10. The subject is city board and commission appointments. And good evening, Mayor and council members, Amy Van, City Clerk. Several Planning Commission and Construction Board of Appeals appointments expired or are vacant. The city accepted applications for a period of 1 month. The city received a total of 13 applications, 13 for the Planning Commission and 1 for the Construction Board of Appeals. We had one individual withdraw his application for consideration to the Construction Board of Appeals. With that, the recommendation is that Council Members Daniels and Councilmember Schaefer each nominate 1 regular member to serve on the Planning Commission, whose appointments are subject to ratification by the City Council. It's further recommended that the City Council, by majority vote, appoint individuals for the remaining at-large appointments to the Planning Commission and the Open Construction Board of Appeals. I do have a spreadsheet that I'll be sharing with the council to assist with the appointment process. I did notify the applicants of this meeting, and if they wish to address the council, they can use the raise hand function in Zoom, which I do see 1 raised hand. And with that, if there's any questions from the City Council, or if you would like to take any public comment.
If the council agrees, I'd like to take the public comment first, and then we can move on to the appointments.
Okay. Let me pull that. Just bear with me 1 moment. And the first, so Paul Maknovinsky, you have been unmuted, so you are able to speak.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. My name is Paul Maknovsky from Brookdale Drive near Rush Park, and I wanted to introduce myself and express my interest in being appointed to the Planning Committee. You've seen the interviews, and I hope you can see my eagerness to serve the community and the city of Citrus Heights in this capacity. I hope to bring value with my current skills and my previous experiences collaborating with the planning department on various projects. I hope you would consider me for this important role. I'm free to answer any questions before I pass it on to either the next candidate or back to you.
Thank you, Paul. Any questions?
Nope.
All right. Well, so I was trying to decide whether to do this alphabetically or by district number. Either way, Mr. Daniels, let's start with your 4-year appointment to the Planning Commission.
I would nominate Paul Maknovsky.
Okay, and Tim, you're next.
Are we going to take these one at a time, Steve?
Well, the 4 years, yes. Hold on, and then we'll do the 2-year.
Okay, so we're going to do the 2 4-years together.
Well, we can make a motion now for Brett's appointment if you like.
Don't we typically do it that way?
I don't remember.
So I'll second.
I've only been doing this 15 years.
So I will second his nomination.
All right, please call the roll, Amy.
Councilmember Bruins,
Aye.
Councilmember Daniels,
Aye.
Councilmember Schaefer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Middleton,
Aye.
and Mayor Miller.
Aye. All right, now we can move on to Mr. Schaefer.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Thomas Sheeler.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bruins,
Aye.
Councilmember Daniels,
Aye.
Councilmember Schaefer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Middleton,
Aye.
and Mayor Miller.
Aye. Okay, that was the easy part. Now, we need to do our 2-year appointments. So with that, I think I'll skip to Councilwoman Bruins for, and I tell you, we'll be picking 2, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm going to, my 2 choices will be Talia Turner Mike and Robert Giovanni.
Councilman Daniels?
Michael Nishimura. And I'm
And
going
one
to
other.
pass on the second one for now.
Okay. Mr. Schaefer?
Michael Nishimura and David Hall.
Okay. Vice Mayor Middleton?
Talia Turner Mike and Robert Giovanni.
Okay, and I have Talia Mike and Cody Tickner. Now I see one with 3. Would we like to make a motion and before we whittle down the others?
I move I nominate Talia Turner Mike as planning commissioner.
Second.
Motion is second. Can you call the roll, Amy?
Councilmember Bruins,
Aye.
Councilmember Daniels,
Aye.
Councilmember Schaefer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Middleton,
Yes.
and Mayor Miller.
Aye. Okay, and we've got 2 with 2. Brett, you want to be a tiebreaker here? We can't vote for Nishimura again, I guess. Never mind.
I will pass on a second.
Okay, so help me out here, council. How do we,
I would make a
arrive at-
motion to nominate Michael Nishimura to the Planning Commission.
okay, there's a motion for Michael Nishimura.
I second.
Second. Clerk Van, can you call the roll?
Councilmember Bruins,
Aye.
Councilmember Daniels,
Aye.
Councilmember Schaefer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Middleton,
Aye.
and Mayor Miller.
Aye. Well, that was a little easier than I first imagined. Usually if I'm facilitating something like this, I'd have you pick 3 so we could whittle it down, yeah, but this worked out rather well, so thank you.
And then, council members, as I stated, we have 1 application for 3 positions on the Construction Board of Appeals.
I would nominate Marcus Bergman.
Second.
Motion and a second. Can you call the roll on this one?
Councilmember Bruins,
Aye.
Councilmember Daniels,
Aye.
Councilmember Schaefer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Middleton,
Aye.
and Mayor Miller.
Aye.
Okay, thank
I
you.
keep trying to want to work on these spreadsheets you post, Amy, but they're read-only.
Well, thank you. That concludes that item.
All right, let's move on to the next one.
So the next,
Congratulations, everybody.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah,
Congratulations.
to all our, especially our new members to the Planning Commission and our Building Committee. Maybe they'll meet one day. Not the committee members, but the committee as a whole.
the next item is regular calendar, item number 11. The subject is appointments to regional boards and committees. And there are 4 resolutions for the council's consideration. Again, I'll be presenting on this item. City council members represent the city on various regional boards and committees throughout Sacramento County as part of their duties as council members. And each January, the mayor makes appointments to regional boards and local committees. And 4 of the regional boards require appointments to be made by a formal motion of the city council. And I will put up here on my screen all of the appointments that were presented in the City Council's agenda packet for consideration. And so we have 4 resolutions for the Air Quality District, the Sacramento Area Sewer District and Regional County Sanitation District, the Sacramento Transportation Authority, and the Sacramento Area Council of Governments Board. And with that, if there are any questions from the council members.
Any questions? I just like to say this is another difficult exercise. There's not an equal amount of appointments, and I will say to Mr. Schaefer, nobody wanted the library board, so it goes to the new guy. But I'll tell you what, about 10 years ago when I appointed Jeff Slowey, he said, "Thanks a lot, Steve." And you know what? He stayed on that board, so I think there's something really good going on there. So
Okay.
And then I definitely want, I put Brett as my STA alternate. Please stay engaged. I had forgotten that we're right in the middle of the 10-year review, like I said earlier in the meeting, and I'd like to wrap that up. But with the mayor duties and regional transit, I forgot to take a step backwards, and I'll be chairing that board this year. So I'm going to need some help on the STA, and it's took me about 2 years to get up to speed. Hopefully it won't take you that long, Brett, but we'll keep you informed on that one. Any other questions? Something, if there's something that anybody objects to, we have moved things around in the past, but hopefully everybody can work with this.
I'm good.
So again, Ryan, can we do this all as one resolution, or do we got to do all 4 for the different boards requiring a resolution?
Well, because they're separate resolutions, we do need to do those 4 separately, please.
All righty.
You put the screen back up so I can see who's what for the resolutions, please.
Sure.
Put that back up. My memory has already failed me. Here we go. Okay, so I will move, let's see, which one is this? Air quality is, okay. So I move that a resolution of the City Council of the City of Citrus Heights, that we appoint Brett Daniels as the representative on that board with the alternate of Tim Schaefer to serve on the Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District Board of Directors. And those are the appointments.
Second?
Motion is second. Amy, can you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Bruins?
Aye.
Councilmember Daniels?
Aye.
Councilmember Schaefer?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Middleton?
Aye.
And Mayor Miller?
Aye. And I'll go ahead and move things along and move that we do a resolution appointing a Citrus Heights member to serve as representative on the Sacramento Regional County Sanitation District and Sacramento Area Sewer District Boards of Director. And that would be Jeannie Bruins with Brett Daniels as the alternate.
Second.
Motion and a second. Amy, please.
Councilmember Bruins?
Aye.
Councilmember Daniels?
Aye.
Councilmember Schaefer?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Middleton?
Aye.
And Mayor Miller?
Aye. Then I'd also move that we appoint as a representative on the Sacramento Transportation Authority, myself and Mr. Daniels as an alternate.
Second.
Councilmember Bruins?
Aye.
Councilmember Daniels?
Aye.
Councilmember Schaefer?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Middleton?
Aye.
And Mayor Miller?
Aye. And then the last one is a resolution appointing Citrus Heights members serve as director on the Sacramento Area Council of Governments, SACOG, and that would be Portia Middleton with Jeannie Bruins as our alternate.
Second.
Councilmember Bruins,
Aye.
Councilmember Daniels,
Aye.
Councilmember Schaefer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Middleton,
Aye.
and Mayor Miller.
Aye. And my last thing I'd like to say on this item is get your Form 700s done, either your annual for if you're staying on the board. If you're leaving, don't forget to do it. I've forgotten to do that. And if you're joining a new board, everybody needs a Form 700. And they're done online now. I think all of them are. So one you got to do through the city and the other through the county. And I know Capitol Quarter is the only board I sit on for regional transit where I actually have to do a hard copy. Just don't forget. And with that, next item, please.
Next item is department reports, and there are none. Next item is city manager items.
Yes, I do, Council. Good evening, Chris Boyd, the city manager. Just a couple of things of note. We know that effective yesterday, the greater Sacramento area has been removed from the state's available ICU bed stay at home order and placed back into the colored COVID tier monitoring system. So we're now under the county purple tier, which is the lowest widespread designation, while the region's ICU beds are still impacted at 9.4% as of today. The region is expected to have a 4-week ICU bed projection rate of 19%, which is why the state removed us from the order. This, by the way, Council, this came as a surprise to all the officials in the region. This is not what the governor has done previously, and to make a decision based on projected rates was, in our case, a good surprise, but it was not expected. So we've heard today from the county public health that as a region, we've reached a plateau in terms of infection rates, and the county is hopeful we may start seeing a decrease. So as we know, nothing's guaranteed, but given this information, we're optimistic we won't be returning to a stay-at-home order in the near future, we hope. At the council's request, we are working with Supervisor Frost's office to obtain additional data from the County Department of Health and state regarding city-specific COVID infection data. Our aim is to determine, if possible, what tier the city would be in if the state were to switch to a zip code-based monitoring system instead of a county-based system. As of now, the state has not released enough data for cities to calculate their own hypothetical tier standing. We're missing data, such as positivity rates, needed to calculate this. So in terms of basic case numbers, we know we sit at moderate case numbers in comparison with the rest of the county. For example, the 95610 zip code, where our numbers are, in terms of diagnosed cases, are the third lowest of 4 categories, and same in the 95621 zip code. So comparatively, we have more diagnosed cases in Rancho Cordova and Folsom. And given we have more retirees, or more of our population is in the at-risk category than other cities our size, this isn't necessarily surprising. The highest number of cases are in Elk Grove, north end of Sacramento, and then right next door in Carmichael. So I'm attentive to the fact that we share a border with Carmichael, which has some of the highest rates in the region. So once we have additional information from the county, I will agendize this item for the council to discuss. But we need to confirm first whether or not a move to a zip code-based system would be advantageous to the city. It's hard for us to tell, and it depends on what point in time. And I don't want to lead a discussion to a place that we have unintended consequences where it actually makes it worse for us. And that's possible. So with the data that's available now. So we're advocating with Supervisor Frost's office, the process to get the additional information to find this out. So we as a city would know where we stand. And any city who's interested in this approach, no one has this information from the state. So that's So I just wanted the council to know we're continuing to investigate this. On a separate note, a different topic, I'd like to take a minute to celebrate some good news with you. As you know, our building division has largely operated remotely this year to keep our employees safe and healthy while also providing excellent customer service. So I'm happy to report that this has been accomplished. And during this past year, the city has issued 2,600 online permits, which is a record-setting number for us. This is almost triple the number from last year. So we're featuring some testimonials on our social media that speak to the excellent level of customer service we've been able to maintain during the pandemic. And we received reports that our staff is knowledgeable and responsive, and that our online platform is user-friendly and intuitive. So I'd like to personally thank our building staff for all of their hard work in this difficult situation. We appreciate you and your excellent work to support the community. So I thought the council would like to hear that. So that's all I have for this evening. Thank you, council.
I have a quick question for you, Chris. You didn't mention vaccines, and I was just curious. I have no idea, and I know we don't control this, but especially our residents 65 and older in the care homes and such, do we have any idea how that's going?
Well, thank you, Mary. Yeah, coincidentally, I met with the county health officer, Dr. Kasiri, this afternoon on this topic. And disappointingly, the vaccine program just isn't moving really as advertised. The county is beholden to really the state. It's not as coordinated as you would think. The county receives X amount of vaccines in any given day or week that's not in their control. Then separate from that, the state, issues doses directly to like hospitals in some cases, or other organizations and entities. And our county health folks may not always know who those are even going to if it's not coming through. The county health office is going straight from the state to, say, hospitals. So, and then separate from that, you'll hear the governor make a statement about, anyone over 65 are now ready to go. Well, but the county, in our case, in Sacramento County, doesn't have those doses, and that is not necessarily coordinated, even though we're hearing the statement from the governor. So it's not going well, and it needs to improve and get coordinated. So we don't have information. Our role as a city is to have the information and help answer these questions, help provide the current information to our residents. And we don't have it. The county health officer really doesn't either.
Well, I can't remember who said this, but I do remember saying that if we put the state in charge of distributing all the sand in the Sahara Desert, we'd have a sand shortage within 2 weeks. So I'll just leave it at that. And that's not an original quote. I forget who said that, but this is frustrating because this will help open things up as well. And you'd think they would have had plans already and not wait for them all to arrive.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we'll keep the council very currently updated as vaccine information comes out, because that obviously is what most people are looking for right now.
All right. Thanks for your report. Next item, please.
And then last item is items requested by council members or any future agenda items.
Anything? Well, hearing none, next item, please.
There are no further items.
Then that would be my gavel hitting the dais. Thank you. We are adjourned.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.